dad-perfect events. I decided to surprise my wife Rebecca at her office with lunch, but the security guard laughed and said, "Sir, I see the CEO's husband every day." There he is. Now, he was pointing at a man who definitely wasn't me. My name is Michael Thompson. I'm 58 years old. And that Thursday afternoon in October changed everything I thought I knew about my 25-year marriage. I'd been running Thompson Construction Company for the past 15 years, making a decent $95,000 a year, while Rebecca climbed the corporate ladder to CEO of Meridian Marketing, pulling in $190,000. I was proud of her success, proud that I'd supported her career all these years. Turns out, I was just funding my own replacement. It started that morning when Rebecca's Apple Watch kept buzzing while she was in the shower. I was fixing a loose tile in our master bathroom, old habits from the construction business. When I glanced at the notifications, one message made my blood run cold. "Can't wait for our weekend in Napa. Love you, babe." It was from Ryan Cooper, her creative director. Rebecca had told me she was flying to Denver for a marketing conference this weekend. Said she'd be staying at some boring hotel, attending seminars all day Saturday and Sunday. I'd even offered to drive her to the airport. When she came out of the shower, I kept working on that tile, acting normal. "Have a good trip to Denver," I said, not looking up. "Don't work too hard at those seminars." She kissed my cheek, same as always. "Thanks, honey. You know how these industry conferences are boring but necessary." I watched her pack clothes that were way too nice for sitting in conference rooms. Designer dresses, expensive lingerie I hadn't seen in months, that perfume she saved for special occasions. My gut was telling me something was very wrong, but my brain kept making excuses. Maybe it was a fancy conference. Maybe she wanted to look professional. Maybe I was being paranoid. But that message kept echoing in my head. "Love you, babe." Nobody talks to a coworker like that. After Rebecca left for the airport, I did something I'd never done in 25 years of marriage. I called her company's main line and asked to speak with Ryan Cooper. "I'm sorry," the receptionist said. "Ryan's out of office until Monday. He's attending a conference in Napa Valley." Napa Valley, not Denver. I hung up and sat in my kitchen, staring at the coffee mug Rebecca had used that morning. My hands were shaking. In 25 years, Rebecca had never lied to me. We'd built our life on trust. I'd supported her through business school, celebrated every promotion, took care of the house so she could focus on her career. And she was lying to me about spending the weekend with another man. I called my buddy Leonard Wilson, a private investigator who'd done some work for my construction company when we had employee theft issues. Leonard ran a small operation out of a strip mall office, but he was thorough and discreet. More importantly, he understood the construction business and knew how to handle delicate situations. "Lenny," I said, "I need a favor, a big one." "What's going on, Mike?" "I think my wife is having an affair." There was silence. Then, "Are you sure you want to go down this road? Sometimes it's better not to know. This kind of investigation runs about $200 a day plus expenses. I'm already down the road, Lenny. I just need to know how far." Leonard agreed to take the case. We settled on a $5,000 retainer, which would cover surveillance, background checks, and whatever else came up. It was money I'd been saving for a new truck, but suddenly that seemed less important than knowing the truth about my marriage. By Sunday evening, I had photos. Rebecca and Ryan Cooper holding hands at some fancy winery in Napa, kissing by a fountain, getting into the same hotel room at a resort that cost $400 per night, more than I made in a day of hard construction work. They looked like they'd been together for years, not co-workers on a business trip. Leonard had done his homework. Ryan Cooper, 43 years old, divorced 2 years ago, no kids. Clean credit report, but he was living well above his salary. Leonard estimated Ryan was making maybe $85,000 as a creative director, but his lifestyle suggested someone pulling in twice that. His BMW lease alone was $650 a month. When Rebecca came home Sunday night, she kissed me and complained about how boring the Denver conference had been. She even showed me a conference program she'd somehow gotten her hands on, with sessions circled in pen. The level of planning that went into this lie was staggering. She'd obviously printed this from their website and marked it up to make her story believable. "How was the food?" I asked, testing her. "Terrible. Convention center catering, you know how it is. I'm just glad to be home." She was lying so easily, so smoothly, like she'd had years of practice. While she was upstairs changing, I looked at the conference program more carefully. The event was real, but it had ended Friday afternoon. Saturday and Sunday sessions she'd circled didn't exist. That's when I started really digging into our finances. I went through our credit card statements, our bank records, everything. Rebecca had been using our joint accounts to fund this affair for months. I found dinner charges at restaurants I'd never heard of, $180 at Chez Laurent, $220 at the Brass Monkey. Places way fancier than anywhere we'd eaten together in years. Hotel charges in cities where she'd claimed to be in boring business meetings. a jewelry purchase for $1,200 from Tiffany that I'd never seen her wear. The numbers started adding up. In the past 6 months alone, Rebecca had spent over $8,000 of our joint money on expenses I couldn't account for. Money we'd saved together. Money I'd earned swinging a hammer and managing job sites, thinking I was building our future together. But the worst discovery came when I found the key. Rebecca had left her purse on the kitchen counter Tuesday morning, and while she was upstairs changing, something fell out when I accidentally bumped it. A key with a Harbor View Apartments keychain. We owned our house free and clear, paid off 3 years ago with money from a big commercial roofing contract. There was no reason for either of us to have an apartment key. Harbor View was a luxury complex across town, the kind of place where successful professionals lived when they wanted something upscale but discreet. Monthly rent started at $2,800 for a one-bedroom. I'd driven past it plenty of times on job sites, sleek glass buildings with fancy landscaping and valet parking. I took a long lunch that day and drove to Harbor View. The key had apartment 237 stamped on it. I sat in my work truck in the visitor parking area for 20 minutes, staring at that key and wondering if I really wanted to know what door it opened. But after 25 years of marriage, I had to know the truth no matter how much it hurt. Walking into that apartment was like entering an alternate reality. The key turned easily, and I stepped into a space that was clearly lived in, clearly loved. This wasn't some temporary hideaway or occasional meeting spot. Rebecca and Ryan had created a whole second life here, complete down to matching coffee mugs on the kitchen counter and family photos on the mantle, photos of a family that didn't include me. The living room was decorated in Rebecca's style, but with touches I'd never seen at our house. Expensive throw pillows in colors she claimed to hate. A modern art piece on the wall that must have cost thousands. Fresh flowers in a crystal vase, white roses, her favorites, the kind I used to bring her for anniversaries before she stopped noticing such gestures. But it was the bedroom that really destroyed me. Rebecca's clothes hanging next to Ryan's in a walk-in closet that was bigger than my office. Her perfume on the dresser next to his cologne. 2 bathrobes hanging on hooks behind the door, his and hers. Like some twisted version of domestic bliss. In our house, Rebecca kept her things separate, organized, professional. Here, their lives were completely intertwined. I found myself doing what I do best, taking inventory, documenting everything like I was estimating a job site. My phone camera clicked steadily as I photographed the evidence, the joint lease agreement in both their names, utility bills showing they'd been living here for 8 months. 8 months of coming home to me every night after spending their real lives together. On the kitchen counter was a folder labeled Future Plans in Rebecca's careful handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it. House listings all in Ryan's name only. Places in Scottsdale, Austin, Charlotte, cities where Meridian Marketing had been discussing expansion opportunities. Rebecca had been planning our escape route, or rather their escape route. The vacation brochures hurt almost as much as the house listings. Italy, New Zealand, Japan trips Rebecca had never mentioned to me, places she'd apparently been dreaming of visiting with someone else. We'd talked about travel over the years, but she'd always said she was too busy, too focused on her career to take extended vacations. Apparently, she just wasn't interested in taking them with me. But the business plan was what made everything click into place. Articulated projections for expanding Meridian Marketing with Ryan listed as CEO and Rebecca as president. Revenue forecasts, staffing plans, market analysis, the kind of thorough business planning that Rebecca excelled at. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning a complete life restructuring, both personal and professional. At the bottom of the folder was what I'd been dreading to find but somehow knew would be there, legal documents. Rebecca had met with divorce attorney Jennifer Mason 3 times in the past 2 months. The consultation notes were brutal in their calculation. Rebecca's strategy was to claim irreconcilable differences and emotional abandonment. She planned to argue that my lack of ambition and resistance to her professional growth had made the marriage unsustainable. The attorney had recommended she document instances of my alleged emotional unavailability. My preference for quiet evenings at home would become social isolation. My satisfaction with my construction business would become lack of drive. My support for her career, all those nights I'd handled dinner and housework so she could work late, would somehow be twisted into evidence that I was holding her back. Reading through those notes, I realized Rebecca had been building a case against me for months while I slept next to her every night, trusting her completely. Every conversation we'd had about future plans, every discussion about money or career goals, she'd been mentally cataloging as ammunition for her legal strategy. The consultation summary estimated legal fees would run $15,000 to $20,000 for a contested divorce. But Jennifer Mason seemed confident they could secure 70% of our joint assets by painting me as an inadequate husband who'd contributed to the marriage's failure through emotional neglect. I photographed every page, my hands steady despite the rage building inside me. 25 years of marriage, and she'd been planning my replacement like a corporate restructuring project. The methodical nature of it was almost worse than the betrayal itself. When I got home that evening, Rebecca was already there, cooking dinner like nothing had happened. She kissed my cheek and asked about my day, the same routine we'd followed for years. But now I could see it for what it was: performance art designed to maintain the status quo until she was ready to execute her exit strategy. How was work? I asked, watching her face carefully. Busy. Ryan and I had to revise the Johnson campaign proposal. We'll probably need to work late a few nights this week to get everything ready. More lies delivered with the same casual ease she'd been using for months. I wondered how many of those late nights at the office had actually been spent at Harbor View Apartments, planning our future while I waited at home with dinner getting cold. That night, I lay in bed listening to Rebecca's peaceful breathing and made my decision. I wasn't going to be the passive victim in her carefully orchestrated divorce plan. If Rebecca wanted a strategic battle, she was about to discover that the quiet construction guy she'd been underestimating for years had learned a thing or two about planning and execution during his 15 years running a successful business. The next morning, after Rebecca left for what she claimed was an early client meeting, I called Philip Anderson. Philip had handled the legal work when I incorporated Thompson Construction Company 5 years ago, and he knew the ins and outs of asset protection for small business owners. "Philip," I said, "I need a divorce attorney. The best you know. Mike, what's going on? You and Rebecca always seemed solid." I spent the next hour telling him everything: the affair, the apartment, the legal strategy I'd discovered. Philip listened without interrupting, taking notes in his careful attorney handwriting. "Mike," he said when I finished, "this is one of the most calculated divorce setups I've seen in 20 years of practice. But the fact that you found out before she filed changes everything. We can get ahead of this." Philip referred me to his partner, Sandra Martinez, who specialized in high-asset divorce cases involving business owners. Sandra's initial consultation fee was $500, but she explained that we were looking at total legal costs between $12,000 and $18,000 if Rebecca decided to fight. The meeting with Sandra Martinez was a wake-up call. She spread my photos and documents across her mahogany conference table like a general planning a battlefield strategy. Sandra was in her 50s, sharp-eyed, with the kind of confidence that comes from winning battles other lawyers lose. "Michael, your wife has been very thorough," she said, reviewing Rebecca's legal consultation notes. "But she made one critical mistake. She documented her strategy before executing it. We can use this against her." Sandra explained that Rebecca's plan to claim emotional abandonment would backfire spectacularly when faced with evidence of her own abandonment, abandoning our marriage for a secret life she'd been funding with our joint assets. More importantly, Rebecca's use of marital funds to support her affair constituted financial misconduct that would influence any judge's asset division decision. "Here's what we're going to do," Sandra continued. "We file first before she knows we're coming. We include everything: the affair, the financial deception, the secret apartment. But we also need to think strategically about timing." That's when I mentioned something that had been nagging at me since I'd found their business plan. Rebecca and Ryan had been restructuring Meridian marketing without proper board approval. As CEO, Rebecca had fiduciary duties to the company's shareholders, and her romantic relationship with Ryan represented a massive undisclosed conflict of interest. Sandra leaned forward. "Tell me more about the corporate structure." I explained what I knew about Meridian's board composition. Victor Martinez was the chairman, a straight-laced businessman who'd built his fortune in real estate development. The other board members were conservative investors who'd put their money into Meridian based on trust in Rebecca's professional judgment. None of them knew she was making major operational decisions based on her personal relationship with an employee. "This isn't just about your divorce anymore," Sandra said. "This is about corporate governance, fiduciary responsibility, and professional ethics. If the board doesn't know about Rebecca's relationship with Ryan, they need to." I drove home from Sandra's office with a plan forming in my head. Rebecca thought she was playing chess while I was playing checkers. She was about to discover that 15 years of running a construction business had taught me a few things about strategy, timing, and leverage. That evening, I called Victor Martinez. I'd met Victor several times at Meridian's annual holiday parties and company picnics. He was the kind of old-school businessman who appreciated directness and hated being blindsided by problems he should have known about. "Victor, it's Michael Thompson, Rebecca's husband. I hope I'm not calling at a bad time. Michael, good to hear from you. How's the construction business?" "Going well, thanks, Victor. I need to bring something to your attention regarding corporate governance issues at Meridian. It's sensitive, but I think the board needs to be aware of some unauthorized structural changes and potential conflicts of interest." There was a pause. "What kind of conflicts?" I spent the next 20 minutes carefully laying out the facts. Rebecca had been implementing major operational changes without board approval, expanding Ryan Cooper's role, restructuring departments, planning new market expansions, all decisions that should have required shareholder authorization according to Meridian's corporate bylaws. More importantly, she'd never disclosed her romantic relationship with Ryan, which represented a serious conflict of interest for someone in her position. "Jesus, Michael," Victor said when I finished. "Are you saying Rebecca's been making major corporate decisions based on her personal relationship with an employee?" "I'm saying there appears to be a significant disconnect between what's been happening operationally and what's been reported to the board, and I think you have a right to know what's being done in the company's name." Victor was quiet for a long moment. "I appreciate you bringing this to my attention. The board will need to discuss this immediately. Can you document what you've told me? I can provide evidence of the unauthorized restructuring and the undisclosed relationship, yes. Do that. Send everything to my office by tomorrow morning. And Michael, thank you for having the integrity to come forward with this." After I hung up, I sat in my home office, the room where I'd planned construction projects and managed contracts for 15 years, and prepared the most important presentation of my business career. I organized the evidence methodically. Photos from the apartment, copies of their business plan, financial records showing the company resources being used inappropriately, documentation of Ryan's unauthorized role expansion. The next morning, I delivered a complete evidence package to Victor's office. His assistant, a professional woman in her 40s, handled the confidential envelope like she knew its contents could change everything. "Mr. Martinez asked me to tell you he'll be in touch soon," she said. "He wanted to thank you personally for your discretion in this matter." 2 days later, Rebecca came home looking like she'd been hit by a truck. Her usual composed CEO demeanor was cracked around the edges, replaced by something I'd rarely seen, genuine fear. "The board has called an emergency meeting," she said, setting her briefcase down with shaking hands. "Victor Martinez is asking pointed questions about corporate governance and undisclosed conflicts of interest." I looked up from the newspaper I was pretending to read. "That sounds serious. Someone's been feeding them information about internal operations." Her voice was tight, controlled, but I could hear the panic underneath. "Someone who had access to confidential strategic planning documents. Maybe someone at the company has concerns about proper procedures," I said, keeping my tone neutral. Rebecca stared at me for a long moment. I could see her trying to process whether I knew anything, whether I could be responsible for her professional crisis. But the quiet, supportive husband who'd never challenged her decisions in 25 years was apparently beyond suspicion. "They're bringing in an outside consultant to review all operational changes from the past year," she continued. "Every promotion, every role modification, every strategic decision. And they want documentation of the decision-making process for each change." I folded my newspaper calmly. "I'm sure everything will work out fine. You've always been thorough about following corporate procedures." The irony wasn't lost on me. Rebecca had spent months documenting my alleged failures as preparation for divorce proceedings. Now someone was about to document her professional failures with the same methodical precision. That Friday, exactly 1 week after my conversation with Victor Martinez, I filed for divorce. Sandra had prepared the papers with surgical precision, complete evidence packages, financial documentation, proof of adultery and deception, and a request for emergency asset protection to prevent Rebecca from dissipating marital funds. But more importantly, I filed first. Rebecca's carefully planned narrative about my emotional inadequacy was preempted by documented evidence of her own misconduct. Instead of being the wronged wife seeking freedom from an unsupportive husband, she was now the defendant in adultery proceedings with evidence of financial fraud. Rebecca found the divorce papers when she came home from what turned out to be the worst day of her professional life. She stood in our kitchen, reading through the legal documents while her face went from confusion to pale shock to something approaching panic. "You've been investigating me," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been protecting myself," I replied, sitting at the kitchen table where we'd shared thousands of meals over 25 years. "The same way you've been planning to destroy me for the past 6 months. She slumped into the chair across from me, still holding the papers. For the first time in years, Rebecca looked her age. The polished CEO facade had cracked completely, revealing someone who suddenly understood that her carefully orchestrated plan had imploded. "The board meeting today," she said slowly, that was you, Rebecca. You created every problem that board is now investigating. I just made sure they found out about it before you could cover it up." The corporate governance review had been swift and devastating. When faced with documented evidence of Rebecca's undisclosed relationship with Ryan Cooper, the board had no choice but to act immediately. Ryan was terminated that same afternoon, effective immediately, no severance package, no glowing reference letter. His unauthorized role expansion and romantic involvement with the CEO represented exactly the kind of conflict of interest that corporate boards fear most. Rebecca had managed to keep her job, but just barely. The board placed her on immediate probation with her decision-making authority severely restricted. A new chief operating officer, Janet Williams, was hired within the week to essentially supervise Rebecca's every move. The woman who'd built her identity around professional power and autonomy was now working under closer oversight than she'd experienced since her first corporate job 20 years ago. "This will ruin everything I've worked for," Rebecca said, her voice cracking for the first time since I'd known her. "You ruined it yourself when you decided to lie to me for months while planning my replacement," I said. "I'm just refusing to help you cover it up anymore." The next few months were a blur of legal proceedings, asset division negotiations, and watching Rebecca's carefully constructed world collapse piece by piece. Sandra Martinez had been right about filing first. It completely changed the narrative. Instead of being the emotionally unavailable husband who'd driven his successful wife to seek happiness elsewhere, I was the faithful spouse who'd discovered systematic betrayal and financial misconduct. Rebecca's attorney, Jennifer Mason, tried to salvage the original strategy, but it fell apart when faced with Leonard Wilson's surveillance evidence and my documentation of the financial deception. How do you claim emotional abandonment when your client was the one living a double life for 8 months? The financial settlement was more favorable than I dared hope. Sandra argued successfully that Rebecca's use of marital funds to support her affair constituted financial misconduct that should influence the asset division. I received 60% of our joint assets, including our house and the majority of our savings. Rebecca kept her retirement accounts and her car, but lost the luxury lifestyle she'd been building with our money. More importantly, the Harborview apartment lease was terminated. Rebecca and Ryan's love nest, their symbol of shared future plans, became just another monthly expense neither could afford alone. Rebecca moved to a modest one-bedroom place near her office, a significant downgrade from the luxury she'd become accustomed to. Ryan Cooper had disappeared from Rebecca's life almost as quickly as he'd entered it. After losing his job at Meridian, he'd taken a position with a smaller marketing firm in Portland at roughly half his previous salary. The BMW lease was returned. The expensive suits went unworn, and the confident man who charmed my wife turned out to be just another middle management casualty when real consequences arrived. But the most satisfying consequence was watching Rebecca face the reality she'd tried so hard to avoid. The woman who'd spent months building a legal case based on my alleged emotional inadequacy was now dealing with the professional and personal fallout from her own choices. Every strategic move she'd made to ensure her financial security had backfired spectacularly. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I was standing in the paint department at Home Depot, trying to choose colors for my new apartment, when I met Linda Foster. She was a recently retired elementary school teacher, 56 years old, with kind eyes and laugh lines that came from 30 years of genuine joy rather than corporate networking. "The blue's nice," she said, nodding at the paint chip in my hand. "But it might feel cold in a room without much natural light." We ended up talking for an hour in that paint aisle. Linda was recently widowed, her husband of 28 years having passed from cancer the previous year. She understood loss, but more importantly, she understood the value of simple honesty in relationships. When I told her I was recently divorced, she didn't pry for details or judge the circumstances, she just listened. Our first date was coffee at a diner near my apartment. No fancy restaurants, no expensive wine, no performance or pretense. Just conversation about books, travel dreams, and the challenge of starting over in your 50s. Linda found my contentment with simple pleasures charming rather than evidence of limited ambition. She appreciated that I'd built a successful business through honest work and treated my employees fairly. "You know what I like about you, Michael?" she said during our third date. "You're comfortable with who you are. You don't need to be someone else to feel valuable." It was exactly what I'd forgotten I was looking for. We've been together for 18 months now, and I'm genuinely happier than I've been in years. Linda moved in last spring, and she's brought a warmth to my space that I didn't realize had been missing. My construction business is thriving. Turns out I work better when I'm not constantly worried about disappointing someone whose love came with impossible conditions. Linda appreciates the life we're building together rather than constantly measuring it against some imaginary standard of success. She celebrates my business achievements, enjoys our quiet evenings, and never makes me feel like I need to be more ambitious or dynamic to earn her affection. Last month, Rebecca called me. It was the first time we'd spoken since the divorce was finalized. "Michael," she said, "I wanted to apologize for how everything happened." I listened without saying much. I convinced myself our marriage was already over, that I was just being honest about reality. But the truth is, I ended it long before I admitted it to myself. I ended it when I decided you weren't enough anymore, instead of trying to work with you to build something better. What's prompted this reflection? I asked. Losing everything I thought I wanted. Ryan and I couldn't make it work once the secrecy and excitement wore off. Turns out planning a fantasy future is different from actually living together day to day. I found myself genuinely sorry for her pain, but not sorry for the consequences she'd faced. I hope you're happy, Michael. I hope you found someone who appreciates what I was too selfish to value. I have, I told her. Her name is Linda, and she's everything you stopped being. Honest, kind, and capable of love without conditions or exit strategies. After she hung up, I sat in my comfortable living room, the one Linda and I had furnished together with pieces we both loved rather than status symbols, and reflected on the journey that had brought me here. At 58, I'd learned that sometimes losing what you thought was your whole world is actually the first step toward finding the world you were meant to live in. Sometimes the quiet guy who builds things with his hands and values loyalty over ambition has more wisdom than the CEO who thinks manipulation is a business strategy. These days, I sleep well at night, knowing that every person in my life chose to be there honestly, not as part of some elaborate strategic plan, and that more than any divorce settlement or professional vindication is what real victory looks like. Sometimes the greatest act of love is refusing to enable someone who's systematically destroying both your lives, and sometimes the person who thinks they're trading up discovers they were actually trading away the only real thing they had. Real strength isn't about accepting betrayal quietly, it's about having enough self-respect to document the truth, seek justice through proper channels, and build something authentic with someone who values honesty over manipulation. The people who mistake loyalty for weakness often discover too late that loyal people aren't passive victims. They're strategic thinkers who know the difference between supporting someone's growth and funding their own replacement. In a world full of people chasing excitement and upgrades, the ones who appreciate simple honesty and genuine partnership are the real treasures, and they're worth waiting for, even if it takes 58 years to find them. The best revenge against someone who betrayed your trust isn't destruction. It's building a life so honest and fulfilling that their manipulation becomes irrelevant and their absence becomes a gift.